I think Sharia can save Britain.
I've heard that before.
The majority whites are being told you have to be afraid.
Why do Muslims think like that? Why do they hate me and I don't even know them?
When the United Kingdom march happened, there was a lot of anti-Islam.
So there's a bit of me thinking, I might have this wrong.
You said you Muslims are allowed to lie for your faith.
The only thing that changed my viewpoint was a Muslim.
I don't think the government can solve this anymore.
A lot of people are just angry and frustrated with nowhere to go. It's easier to blame somebody else than it is to look at yourself sometimes. I should know that, I've done that a few times.
So today we are in the cold. I've got my gloves out for the first time in this series. We are in Lowestoft in East Suffolk, and we're about to have a conversation with Ivan Humble.
Now let's talk to Ivan Humble, who used to be a regional organiser for the EDL.
There's more that brings us together than divides us. That's my story in a nutshell.
And has since then left the EDL and has become a campaigner against hate. Obviously, Muslims generally are quite concerned, worried, scared about the rise of the far right. I'd like to learn from Ivan a bit more about the blurring that seems to be happening between anti-migrant hate and anti-Islam hate. Why is that? I'm quite curious to understand a bit more about that. And I think his own story, has a lot for us in terms of how to diffuse it. He might give us a really easy solution for a very big problem. And that's why I'm quite interested in understanding.
I never script nothing because it's not believable then if you script stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
That's one thing I do, I just say it is. Sometimes I don't always say the right things, but I am a council estate kid, do you know what I mean? So
it's the authenticity,
yes,
isn't it?
It's one thing
That's
I
what
am.
People
Even with this
feel.
little bit of fame I've had,
Yeah.
I've stayed grounded, do you know what I mean? I'm council estate, do you know what I mean? I'm from Lowestoft, I'm not special, I don't brag about what I do either, do you know what I mean? So a lot of people in Lowestoft send me in the local papers, but they don't know what I do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just think, who's he? But yeah, it's not worth bragging about stuff because I've got a lot of mates who are worse off than me. I'm just grounded. I think Myanmar, the Muslim community instilled some of that in me, I think.
Really?
Because the way you help each other,
Okay.
it's just mad sometimes.
Wow. So I want to start by asking if you can situate us. So where are we today?
So we're currently in the town of Lowestoft, which most people won't know this. It's the most easterly town in England. The next point is just the other side of the bridge, and that's the furthest point out of England, that is.
Wow.
Not many people know that because I've learned that on my journey. When I do talks, I ask where I'm from. I say Lowestoft, and they sort of look at me all gone out until I say Great Yarmouth. Everybody knows Great Yarmouth,
Okay.
which is literally 9 miles away. So
Thank you so much for making time to talk to us today. The context is obviously a very striking one. We're at a time in the country where so many communities feel afraid. Muslims are afraid, Jews are afraid, the majority whites are being told you have to be afraid.
yeah,
What do you think has got us here?
I think it's years of not talking to each other. Do you know what I mean? We'd rather label somebody and point our finger at them rather than listen to their genuine concerns. And I think when you don't listen to people's genuine concerns, they get led down a path somewhere else with maybe some of the controversial voices out there. So I think the lack of communication, and I think people just forgot how to talk to each other. I do blame a lot of stuff when we were on lockdown. I think that killed a lot of conversations in the real world because most people now are probably situated in an echo chamber online because there was nowhere else to go to have conversations online. So I do think a lot of this is because of lockdown. I don't think people think about the repercussions of that because you've only got to look at all the teenagers that have been arrested for stuff when they were stuck at no school, do you know what I mean? So, and obviously the parents can't be everywhere, they're busy doing their work from home. So I do think that's where a lot of the problems come from.
Now, your story obviously is very unique. You were, I think, a regional lead for the English Defence League? Regional organiser. So you have probably the most unique inside-outside perspective of that whole space on the far right. So could I ask you, what were you searching for when you joined the EDL?
I wasn't really searching to join a group, to be honest. What I wanted to do back then is, obviously I had an opinion, but that opinion just didn't come out of anywhere. I didn't just wake up one day and think, today I'm going to hate Muslims. It was a process, like most things are. But my process started with a Muslim, where most people think it was Tommy Robinson. It went nothing to do with Tommy.
Yeah.
I already had my view and my world viewpoint before I even met him. So it was because I had Jim Chowdhury, the radical Muslim. But back in 2008, 2009, I didn't know that. I just saw him as a Muslim because that's how he was labelled.
Yeah.
But some of this rhetoric he was saying about wanting to take over England, make everybody Muslim, I didn't understand a lot of it back then, but what I did understand is that he attacked our troops during their parade, and that got me really angry. That's where my anger come from. And it weren't just because he attacked our troops. I had 2 friends, personal friends that were on that parade that day that were abused, and it was just like, if I was out in a pub and my mate got in trouble, you'd want to help them. It was that kind of feeling for me. But then when I found out it was a man called Andrew Chowdhury, I didn't know who he was, so I had to look at him online. And then I found so many videos with stuff he was saying about how much he didn't like Britain, how much he wanted to convert us to Muslim, Sharia law. I didn't really have a really good insight on that back then, but the Sharia law we were seeing on the news was people getting their heads cut off, arms cut off. So that sends a bit of fear in you when you're just an ordinary person. So I think after a little while, once you'd researched Chowdhury, then you'd come up to Abba Hamza or one of them lot. So they're all saying the same things, and I'm thinking to myself, why do Muslims think like that? Why do they hate me? And I don't even know them. But then it got to a point where I did have this view and I didn't know what to do with it, because I was a normal person back then, but I went to the local town hall to speak to a councillor thinking they might know a bit more than I do. So I had a chat with one of the councillors for about half hour, I think it was. Didn't really get nowhere. They listened to me, but there was no options for me at the end of the conversation. So I left the town hall and got a bit frustrated with that. So by the time I got back home, my anger was mixed with frustration. And then that's when I thought, well, I didn't think, I just put a status up online. That status went quite well because it was anti-Muslim, do you know what I mean? So, but then I started talking to a man online who, it was a similar kind of conversation I had with the councillor. But at the end of this conversation, the person I was speaking to offered me a solution. And that solution was simply, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to form a group called the English Defence League, and our purpose is to stand up to people like Andrew Chowdhury. So at that time, I thought, well, I needed something to do, I want something to do to help. That was it. So I sort of signed up for that, became a Facebook admin for a little while, and then worked my way up to regional organiser.
Wow. And then what do most people find, and you yourself, once you're in it, what does it offer you? There's the...
Belonging.
Okay, can you talk about that
Yeah,
a bit?
so for me personally, back then I didn't just have that view, I had lots of vulnerabilities as well. So just touch on a couple of quickly. One was mental health. A few years before the EDL, I'd spent 12 weeks in a mental hospital to get better because I had a severe mental health breakdown. And with that, that's when I had problems with labels and stigma, because I was borderline schizophrenic, or that's what the first diagnosis was. So I was getting labelled psycho and nutter. So I lost a lot of friends in my friend circle. When I come out of there, because you're in a place for that long, it's a bit like going into a new world, so it's a bit scary. So I lost a lot of people that way because I neglected people because I didn't know who to trust. Then I got into a relationship that turned toxic. I was a victim of domestic abuse. Being a man, I didn't speak about it back then. And when I did speak out about it to a couple of friends, they laughed. So it got that bad that the police and social services came round and removed me and my children for our own safety. So I was a single dad from then. So being a single dad brought its own challenges. The sort of friend circle I was still going out drinking and having a laugh with, I couldn't do that as much because now I had 2 kids to look after. My boy was at school and my daughter wasn't, so most of my time was spent watching kids' TV and conversation with my children. So I forgot to talk to people. And then going to the EDL, and it just gives you that sense of belonging, especially being like, when I started off on the Facebook page, getting to know people online, when they meet you in person, they put you on a pedestal. And that sense of belonging was so strong. It was the same for a lot of people. You become one big family. You do everything to help each other out. I think that's what I was looking for back then. Even throughout my journey with the EDL, that sense of belonging was still there. Even when I did start speaking to the Muslim community, I was still organising stuff and doing what I was doing. But there was that bit of open-mindedness I had.
So is it at that later stage, it was the belonging that created that loyalty, if you like, or service?
Oh, yeah.
Not so much the ideas or the concepts.
No, it weren't really enough to do that, because some of the things I didn't agree with what was being done, do you know what I mean? But that camaraderie, that sense of belonging, like we'd all help each other out. So if we had a coach going to a demo and a regular who couldn't afford it one week because something happened, we'd pay for their ticket, do you know what I mean? So we just looked after each other, and that is worth more than anything back then.
Was there a positive narrative, meaning, because hate is a negative narrative.
Yeah.
It's saying...
So I think not many people talk about the EDL in a positive light, because it is hard to sometimes. But if you look back at the early days, 2009 onwards, till about 2011, you look at any placard that was on a demonstration, that placard will represent a newspaper headline or a story that we'd read. Mm-hmm. So when we read it in the newspaper, it seemed to be acceptable. But when we voiced our concern at that article, we were deemed racist and bigots. And back then, whatever people say about Tommy Robinson, he wanted debate back then. Tommy wanted to talk. Tommy wanted to speak to people. Mm-hmm. Because when I started my journey with, like, the Ipswich Muslim community, for example, when I started my change, or when I started talking to them, Tommy was talking to the Muslim community in Luton anyhow. Mm-hmm. But nobody would talk about that bit. So Tommy used to always try to have the conversation, but look, and people moan about where he is now. You all put him there. You made Tommy the person he is.
Who is you?
Who am I?
No, who is the you who put Tommy where he is?
The newspaper, the counter protesters, the anti-racists who just label people due to laziness. Look, not everybody, we live in a world where not everybody gets on. That's fine. But it's all about respecting people's opinion. Like I said earlier, I've got lots of friends here. I've lived in this town all my life. Yeah. And not all my friends share my beliefs or views. Some of them have got some pretty extreme views. Some have got some pretty left views. But they're still my friend. I can't judge them because they think different to me. It doesn't mean that I share their thoughts. It just means I can still get on with people and I can look past the label. Because I think nowadays, once people are given a label, that's it. You're put in a box and you're kind of forgotten about. Nobody wants to talk to you. I'm not saying there isn't a big far-right threat, because there is. We've seen that. And people know about the threat, people know about that. But what people don't understand is how people get that far. Or nobody's interested in that bit. We seem to be more worried about scaremongering people, keeping that division in place, than trying to solve it, looking for solutions.
In your own words, what is the far-right threat? Like, where do you see, in the worst case, this movement of people is going?
See, I don't see it like most people. I don't get me wrong, we know there's threats, but when some of these far-right groups are getting exposed now, they're only 8 or 9, 10 members. They're not thousands of people. Like, I think when you talk about the far-right, you have to talk about the Islamist threat as well, because there's a newspaper report a few years back that said 40,000 people on the watch list. So how can you compare that? Why don't we talk about that as much as we used to? Because that's where the threat is. I'm not saying there isn't a threat, because we've seen that with the Joe Cox murder and the Rosie Cooper planned attack. So there is a threat out there, but I just think that we're looking at that too much and not looking at sorting out solutions. Because we can talk about the threat all day long, but it's not going to get nowhere. All it's going to do is scare more people. I think we need to start looking at solutions to build communities back up. Because if we keep this up, where are we going to be in 5 years' time? I've been doing this work 10 years, right? And I do get disheartened quite a bit because I get a lot of threats and I get a lot of hassle for some of this work I do. Has it got any better? No, it's got worse. So sometimes I do question, is it worth putting myself in danger to try and make a difference? But then the other side of me saying, if I don't do it, who does? It's one of them. I've started it now. I can't sort of walk away from it. I did have a couple of years out, like when my mum died, and I had a heart attack as well, so I had to take a bit of time out. So I had time to watch what was going on. And it's the same thing, labels, finger pointing, and nobody wants to talk. Nothing's changed. Worse, if anything else. And again, it's when we're talking about radicalisation and all these people getting radicalised, we're blaming certain people, but where do they get their news from? It's not, nobody makes it up, it comes from the mainstream media. It's like radicalisation's dirty little secret. Nobody talks about that side of the radicalisation because I don't know why they don't, because it is radicalised. Like back when I was getting involved, all the newspapers are Ajahn Chowdhury, Abu Hamza, Muslims this, Muslims that. All they've done is replaced it with immigration. So now we've got the fear of migrants now, because we're being told that every day on the news, every day in the newspapers. What are ordinary people supposed to believe? If people want you to believe the mainstream media, so once you believe it and you voice your concern because of what you're seeing, you're in a label in the tick box. So how is that a solution? It's just keeping us at each other's throats. I'm not saying there ain't no problems, because there is. We've obviously seen that, but until we start talking about the genuine concerns, street movements are just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, because it's going to come to a point soon where the government are going to have to do something big. They're going to have to start listening to people and doing something popular, or at least be more transparent about things.
I'll circle back to your comment on solutions and going forwards. And you made a comment about Islamist threats, so we can come back to that part. I want to talk about your journey out of the EDL, but just before that, because you mentioned a few times right now about media, and you mentioned earlier about the dangers of the online world. So just a little bit about that. Your comments are suggesting that mainstream media is a driver of this whole movement that we're seeing.
I think so, yeah.
Is it conscious, do you feel? Do you feel there's
Do you think
in
it's done
some
on purpose?
pockets, in some pockets there's an interest in driving this?
See, you could look at that, but then you start going down the conspiracy. See, the environment at the minute is so like fragile. Whatever you do, you can go down the wrong path. So you have to be really careful.
Yeah.
To be fair, I don't know what the solutions are, but I just think we need to talk to each other. Genuine concerns need to be spoken about properly and listened to, because the MPs or the elected MPs should be representing everybody, not a selection of their thingy. So until everybody gets an even voice or an even platform to have their opinions heard, we're always going to have this problem, which is sad, because life's not long. Do you know what I mean? I've noticed that since I've had my heart attack. I look at myself sometimes and think, how long have I got left? But life's too short for this arguing and drama. It's up to the people, I think. It's only the people, and the only way the people can do it is to vote. But then you have another problem, who to vote for. I don't think there's a political party that represents the ordinary man, because whoever we vote for, our lives never get better. We have all the promises of your life will get better, blah, 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 but reality, whoever you vote for, your life don't get better. And then again, this is where the media comes in. When you're seeing stories about migrants coming over, getting phones and everything, it's natural there's going to be anger. Whether it's justified or not, it's just a natural thing. Anger's natural. It's an ordinary thing to feeling, so people are going to get angry. But again, we can't do it on our own. The government needs to step up and do more, but we've been waiting years for a government to make a change for everybody, do you know what I mean? So I don't know when that's going to come.
So if I could ask you then, again, we'll come back to the changes and solutions. Just your personal change, what is it that took you out of the EDL then?
It was meeting a meeting Muslims, to be fair. I met my first Muslim by chance. To be fair, my change, people think that it was just Manwar that done it. It wasn't just Manwar and the Muslims I met, it was my daughter. My youngest daughter, it was all her fault. I'll blame her. So
How old was she?
She was only young, 6, 7.
Uh-huh.
So what it was, my kids were nagging me one day to go shopping in Norwich, which is our nearest city. So I took them there, Christmas shopping, and my daughter needed a toilet. So it was while she was on the toilet that I had a chance meeting with a Muslim guy, and he was obviously busy that day because he was in a meeting, but he still come out to speak to me. He sort of gave me a hug, and I thought it was a bit uncomfortable, do you know what I mean? So I said, I'm English Defence League, thinking that didn't intimidate him, but he just let go and shook my hand for about 10 minutes. So, yeah, so I said, look, I'd like to have a chat with you, because he wanted to talk to somebody from the English Defence League. So I said, look, I'm busy with my kids today, and you're obviously busy. So I went over the next day when my kids were at school, and that led to 6 months of talking. So I met Keneal. He was a Christian, but he'd been practicing Islam for 14 years. When we started talking, it was just the first couple of meetings were just getting to know each other. So that was all right, and it was easy to talk to him. Now, if I'm honest with you, it's because he was white. He looked like me with a little beard. None of this big beard stuff. He was just a little bit. So we got on quite well. But then when we started challenging each other, I thought then there was a bit of me thinking I might have this wrong, because what I found with Keneal is he didn't understand my interpretation of Islam, and I definitely didn't understand his, because his was all about peace and everything, and mine was the violent side. So after 6 months, the one thing he did teach me was the importance of common ground, because although the EDL did say a lot of harsh things about the Muslim community, some of the things we said he agreed with, not to the point we did, but he had the same fears and concerns. So that common ground thing sort of opened up to me, and because I was quite open-minded, it kind of sat in my head again. And then a few weeks later, a Muslim bought a church in Ipswich, St Michael's, and obviously you could guess the rest. The room is where it's going to be a secret mosque. Muslims are going to come from everywhere, you know the story. So instead of doing a demonstration, I knew that one of my lads from Ipswich was already talking to a Muslim there who bought the church. So I decided to go over and meet him. He knew who I was when I got there, because he'd been talking to one of ours. And I kind of just asked a question. I said, look, you bought the church, is it going to be a super mosque? And he looked at me and went, no. I went, look, no disrespect, I don't believe you, because I know you can use that word to keep you, is it? I know you can lie for your religion. He went, no, honestly. I said, prove it to me, thinking, I've got you now. He went, no worries. In 2 weeks' time, if you want to come with some of your lads, I have a council meeting planned with the council, the police. I think it was 18 nationalities of the town as well. We're going to discuss what I'm doing with the church. And, all right then. So a challenge again, I guess. So me and 6 others went to this meeting. It was one of the most boringest 3.5 hour meetings I've sat in. But at the end of it, I couldn't fault the guy because he hadn't lied to me. It was simply going to be a community centre for everyone, to the point where he said, once it's completed, I will even let the EDL have a room to do with whatever you want. I went, you're that exclusive? He said, yeah, and because he proved to me, it kind of, we didn't trust each other straight away, but we carried on talking. And one day I met him when he was renovating the church. I went over to help him with a couple of lads. And he said to me, do you want to sit down and have your say? I went, what do you mean? He went, say whatever you want. I thought, oh, this is another challenge for me. So I said some of the most horriblest things I could think of, trying to provoke him, make him angry. Just sat there, nodding, didn't interrupt me once. And it got to the point after about an hour and a bit, I'd kind of run out of breath. And he sort of looked at me and went, are you finished? And at that point we both sniggered, because it's quite a funny thing to say.
Yeah.
But after that, something just happened inside me. I can't even describe it. I don't know, I just felt at ease a bit. And then he said to me, Ivan, I just listened to you, and again, there's a lot of things you're wrong on, especially around Islam, but you have got some genuine concerns. again, what Keneal said, so again, this common ground thing. And then we just carried on talking. I said to him, look, you've been really respectful to me. I didn't expect that. What I want to repay that by asking you if you'd be prepared to teach me about my misconceptions around the religion and some of the other areas I was wrong. He agreed to that, so we carried on talking for the next 2.5 years, on and off. And don't get me wrong, we didn't agree. Even today, we still didn't agree on everything, but we've got an understanding of mutual respect. Our friendship was tested when we were talking in 2013 by Lee Rigby's death. Again, I put a big rant up on social media about it, but Manwar and Keneal both rang me up the next day to apologise. I found that a bit strange, because they'd obviously seen my post because I was friends with them on socials, and they apologised, explaining it was the extremist side of things, and again built that little bit of cement between us, that sort of common ground. So then Manwar was talking to me a bit. So Manwar was talking to me about how sorry he felt from Lee Rigby, so I sort of tried calling his bluff again as to another test for him. Because at that point we'd planned to do loads of silent walks around the country for Lee Rigby, just a simple walk from the town hall to the nearest cenotaph. And at that point, because I was talking to Manwar, I said, if you're really this concerned about and upset about Adrian Chowdhury, do a walk with us. Come on the march with the English Defence League. To my shock, Manwar agreed.
He came.
He agreed, so it got to the day, about 5 to 11 of the day of the march, or the walk. At first we didn't think he was going to turn up, because Tommy the same day was waiting for the Luton community to come with him. Obviously they didn't turn up for Tommy. 5 minutes before we were due to leave, we see a little Muslim girl walk round the corner, only about so high, with a box of roses. And about 30 Muslims followed her around the corner, Manwar. So we did this march together. It's probably the first and only time something like that will happen. But it was peaceful. We walked together, we got to the cenotaph, and we dispersed. The next day when I woke up, it made all the national newspapers. Muslims walk with EDL. There was a lot of positivity. So I was thinking to myself, you never know, I might get a phone call to say, why did I do it? I never got no phone call. What did happen
Phone call from where? From the EDL?
Well, no, not even the EDL, but somebody within the newspapers or somebody from the papers, because I thought that was quite a positive. Yeah. But all the press and the attention went to Manwar, as if he was a coconut and Uncle Tom. He walked with the EDL. Okay. So back then, I found that quite offensive to Manwar, even though it was a bit weird because I was an EDL member. Yeah. But I was arguing with Muslims on Muslim forums about Manwar. They're calling him a coconut Uncle Tom because he dared walk with us. I thought if people looked at it with open-mindedness, I guess, then it's two different sides coming together on a positive common ground rule and done something together, even though we didn't really like each other. Nobody saw it like that. Manwar just got so much hassle that he had to write a letter to the newspaper to say he'd never walk with us again. He did tell me about it before it went to press, but that's how, you try doing good, and nobody wants solutions, nobody wants to see two sides together. So it wasn't, I suppose it was about another 8 months after that march, then I walked away from the EDL, because obviously I was more educated on some of the things I thought, and for the first time in my life I had Muslim friends. I'd met Manwar's family, I met Keneal. Keneal took me to a mosque in Norwich. Manwar's took me to mosques. I've been to quite a few mosques in the country now. It's just better understanding. I'm not saying that the Muslim community is all glorious and all perfect, because it's not. Mm-hmm. There's still fractions, there's still, you know that yourself. Yeah. But it's them little fractions that the public see online. And that's what fuels a lot of the Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hatred. Is just, I don't think people intentionally do it sometimes. I think when you see a Muslim guy saying they want to take over and they're going to do this and that to your area, it kind of, people want to protect their area. So I do think some of it is a bit OTT sometimes. I'm not saying it's never justified, but some people, not everybody who says something against Muslims is an ideologue. I think a lot of people are just angry and frustrated with nowhere to go, and it's easier to blame somebody else than it is to look at yourself sometimes. Because I should know that I've done that a few times.
And in your journey, when you've finally got to meet Muslims, what's most surprised you about the Muslim community?
There's a few things actually, because how much they agreed with some of the things the EDL said about the agitated, obviously, but I didn't know that back then, that they shared that sort of thought, so that's been quite an eye-opener. And just the way they help each other. At a mosque, the mosque is always open. It's like our churches around here shut. You can always go to a mosque and get help with whoever you are. I think that's quite a good thing. I don't think, I just think the way the media portrays things, it's like everybody's an enemy to us, or we're an enemy to each other. But I've never met you before, and we've got on straight away. It's that you've been to my town, and everybody says Lursoft's quite racist and that, but not in the real world. It's the online space. Our town online is a different place, like I suppose most areas are. You've been here today, and I think you've been any people of difference here.
No.
So nobody said nothing
nice
to you.
And normal. Yeah.
See, people get too confused with this online, offline world. Don't get me wrong, some of it does span over, but not like you're seeing every day online.
Now, you've become now an anti-hate campaigner.
Yeah.
What is anti-hate campaigning? What makes up this work then?
I know, that was another label I was given on my journey, to be fair. All I am, how I see myself is, I'm just a lad from a council estate who's got a passion for change. That's any label I need, do you know what I mean? I'm no different to anybody else in my town, I'm not special. I just want a bit of change, just make a bit of a difference.
Okay, so let's look at change. What are the things that need to change?
I think the way we talk to each other. I think there's just so much. See, hate's been used a lot lately. Whatever happened to the word dislike? You can dislike something, do you know what I mean? You don't have to hate everything. It's just like some of our words in the English language is gone.
It's true.
Because I remember my kids, they used to say, I hate beans. You don't hate them, mate. They've done nothing to you. You just dislike them. I think the language has changed a lot of things. The way we're just, everything's hate. Not everything is hate in reality, but because it's labelled that, everybody sees it as that. I think there's so much misinformation about everything that you don't even know where to look anymore for real truth. The online space is, I know, I suppose there's a positive about the online space somewhere, but at the minute, because we're only talking about hate, that's all we're seeing. The internet's a big place, it's massive.
So is a lot of this campaigning actually just about real worldism? Let's come back into the real world.
So for me, I want to promote dialogue, listening. Listening more than dialogue really, because talking's easy, it's the listening that's the hard bit. Because like I help people try and change their views, so I have to sit with people and listen to some of the most abhorrent views you can hear. I can't say nothing, I can't judge that person because I want to help them. But unless you can adjust your moral compass sometimes, I'm not saying that I believe what they're saying, they believe what they're saying, that's the difference. I could think they're saying is a load of rubbish, but I can't tell them that because they believe it. So we have to find a way or some other solution, something else to think about, to like combat that, which is hard if you're using the online space because everything seems to be hateful. So that's what I mean, you have to talk in the real world. The one thing I will say about my change is, although Manuel was the one person to sit me down in the 5 years I was involved, and he was a brown person, no white person ever wanted to do that with me, you see.
No white person wanted to ask you, what are you feeling, why are you upset?
It was the person that I
let it all out.
Yeah, it was the person that I hated the most wanted to give me that time.
What about your community though, within the EDL?
some agreed, not agreed with me talking to the Muslim community, as you can
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, okay.
So I think that's why I got a lot of hate when I left, because a lot of people accused me of converting, being an agent, race traitor, Muslim lover. I was accused of all sorts. I still get accused of that today, but I still haven't converted. I've still got my head. So everything that people said would happen to me hasn't happened, if you know what I mean. So I just think people are scared of each other for some reason. Like, I've met some of the nicest people on my journey, not just Muslims, from all over the world, really. I know I've met a lot of survivors from terror attacks. I've met a lot of reformers from various gangs, groups or ideologies. My world is so much bigger now than it was. So I guess my understanding is a lot different to a lot of people. So I can see the good where others can't.
We speak about drivers. It's occurred to me, or at least what I feel very strongly, is that the state of the economy and public services is what's really driving a lot of this.
Yeah.
People are feeling left behind.
Okay.
Cost of living has gone insane.
That's the thing the government needs to sort first, the cost of living. You sort that out, people will be a lot happier.
But the question is, this is the whole problem. I'm not convinced government can solve this.
No, I can't.
Because NHS is getting worse, public services are getting worse, and the only way the government can solve it is by paying less to disabled people. I mean,
I get that. It's a
it
cruel
seems
world.
it can't do what we need it to do, because we need to live dignified with opportunity. And when you're in that stuck place and someone tells you, well, if you hate those people, maybe it will get better, then it's quite an attractive option, because there's not many other options on the table then.
No, there's no options, is there? That's the problem. I think we're at that breaking point at the minute. I think before you never had a big far right presence or controversial presence, I'll say, because a lot of people now aren't far right, they're just angry, frustrated. So I don't really like using that phrase as much, but they are obviously far right. But a lot of these people, like for example, like when we were in the EDL, we managed to get 10,000 people. That's probably one of the biggest demonstrations we've done. It's always hard to get people on the streets for something like that. But look at Tommy Robinson last year, United Kingdom. They got millions there, or thousands. That tells you how many disfranchised people there are. And not everybody on that demonstration was far right either. You see grannies there, young kids there. I don't agree with the kids being there maybe, but because they'll just get indoctrinated. But the people are there for the right reason, but then the speech is all about remigration and hatred. So they sort of like get people in one place and then you hear the rhetoric. It's a mass way of doing it, but I do think that many people on the street that day were ordinary people, just like I used to be, just angry and frustrated, with nowhere to go, no one listened to them. Tommy does. Anybody on the right does, because they know if the government aren't talking about their conversations, then somebody else will be. It was like that back in the 70s with like Neil Griffin and all that. They were the ones talking about immigration back then when it first became concerns for people. But from then, nobody's ever listened to nobody, and we're in the situation we are today.
So what I often talk about is, if a lot of the driver is just people are being left behind economically and socially, and if it's true that the welfare state is increasingly unable to keep up with that promise, then I just feel that the solution has to come from the grassroots then.
Yeah.
A sort of welfare-based solution, because you spoke earlier about finding belonging. So it's clear that people want to find belonging.
Yeah.
And it's clear that the belonging has to have a positive message. And it has to be what you said earlier, which is looking out for each other, feeling that it's our problem to look out for each other as opposed to just the government's problem. So it's almost recreating a real community-based movement of solidarity, welfare, but it's a grassroots solution. Do you think this can be done, and do you think this is what needs to happen? Because I feel strongly that that's the only way.
I think it could be done, but there'd need to be a lot of thinking, because I think that hatred out there at the minute is pretty strong. It's going to take a lot to pull people away from it. because I speak to a lot of people about things at the minute, and some of their views are becoming more hardened. Like some of the people I was speaking to 8-10 months ago, when I first met them to speak to them, their views were pretty tame. But the longer it's been, their language is still changing. However much I'm talking to them, whatever I say to them and however much good work we do in that hour or couple of hours I have with them, the minute they go back home, switch on their laptop, everything we just discussed is back in their face. It's a never-ending battle. You're always sort of like, years ago it used to be a lot easier to help people. Nowadays there's so many different issues and so many different viewpoints from everywhere. Everything's getting a bit confused and sort of covered up. And like, I don't think half these problems are, obviously there are problems with immigration, I can't deny that. But I don't think it's the fault of the migrants coming here. Because like I said, they're not waking up one day and saying, oh, I'm going to go to England and live in a hotel. It's the greedy owners, really. It's like you're targeting the asylum seekers, people who want to come here for a new life, but then you're forgetting about the people that are actually causing it. The greedy hotel makers who are now millionaires because of it. You've got the circo, it's like legalised human trafficking, really, sometimes it looks like.
It is.
And I don't think, like around this area when people talk about immigration, we haven't got that many around here, so it doesn't mean, and even if we do get, say, 10, 20, it's not going to make no difference to our doctors. Or our doctors are already bad. It's been bad for years around here. So you can't really blame people trying to seek a new life for the government. The government's the one that's not been funding things properly. We said about the NHS. If that was funded properly, we wouldn't be having a problem. And if a lot of these people who talk about remigration want to get rid of everyone, where's your British nurses? Where's your British doctors? You need to start training people up if you want that. And where are you going to train people up? The reason we've got foreign doctors and that is because we haven't got no British ones. So it's one of them and that, do you know what I mean? And I don't think everything's been concentrated on immigration at the minute, but like I said, there's other problems that need dealing with first that would make it, I think you deal with the cost of living somehow, that'll make a big difference because everyone's going to feel a bit more equal. Because the way the media portrays the migrants, they're getting everything you're not, which we know is not true. Like, I know that when I go to a hotel, I get a good experience. The migrants aren't getting the hotel experience that I get when I go to a hotel. It's not like that, do you know what I mean?
No, not at all. Now, at this current moment, it's understandably, you'd see a lot of Muslims are quite scared. They're scared to go out to particular places, they're scared to receive various racial slurs, and they are receiving. And if they're at the back end of a particular attack, that doesn't get as much attention as other attacks would. So now a lot of Muslims, very frequently now, and they're very concerned about a reform, racist, anti-Muslim government coming in as well.
Yeah, which is understandable, that is, I think.
And so there's a lot of conversations in the Muslim community about how do you prepare for what's coming. If you were in such a room and there's mosque leaders, community leaders of the Muslim community, and they're trying to figure out what's the right way to respond in this climate, what would your advice be to the people in that room?
That's quite a good one. Now you're going to get me controversial now, aren't you? That's what you. Now I think the way I look at it is the only thing that changed my viewpoint was a Muslim. I don't think there would have been any white person that would have changed me. So sometimes I do think the Muslim community needs to stand up a bit. I don't mean justify what's going on or anything. I mean, you're the people, you're the ones best to deal with people like I was. You understand Islam, you understand my misconceptions where somebody else wouldn't. So I think if you spoke up more about the bad eggs, like, I don't see we should be doing it the way, but only the Muslims can deal with this, I think. That's what I think because of my experience. So if you got rid of, what needs to happen is, not everybody sees when you got a bad Muslim saying stuff, that people are sort of talking against him. A lot of people like I, back in the day, we didn't see that. That needs to be magnified a lot so people see that it's not the true way. But that's just me passing the blame onto the Muslims.
No, it's
I
we
do
can
think-
we can break this down a bit, right?
I do think, see, I don't know all the answers, but I do think, judging on my past, it was only a Muslim that could help me with my views, because a white person wouldn't understand what I thought about Islam. So I do think that some people, not everyone in the Muslim community, because of the fractions, but I do think that you've got some good Muslims that I've met over the years that would be able to make a positive impact like that.
So there's a few bits and pieces here, right, in what you're saying. So the first thing is, your story all comes from open conversation. And I'm wondering if for your story to be multiplied, lots of people have to have those kind of open conversations. So I'm wondering, one thing that comes out of your story is that mosques and Muslims should make themselves available, if you like, to have those forms of conversations, to demystify their community. That's a part of, I think, what comes out of your story, first of all.
That's why I like doing talk to Muslims. Because when I do, my talks to Muslims are different to the talks to other people I do, because it's my chance to explain to the Muslims why people hate them. And then I hope that they listen to what I say, why I hated them, and then they could do something or think about a way to sort something out in the future, if you know what I mean. That's kind of my hope for when I talk to the Muslim community, that I enable them or empower them to understand hate a bit more. Because I do think that not many people understand hate properly. It's just a word, isn't it, for most people. But when you look into it, and like when you've been through the process like I have, you get to see holes afterwards. I didn't see it when I was in the movement, but now I can see a few holes. And I wouldn't say the EDL was wrong for everything either, do you know what I mean? It was probably something needed to be done back then about Ajahn Chowdhury, and it kind of didn't go the way we planned. But Ajahn Chowdhury is now in prison for life, so that tells you that. See, another problem I have with Tommy's growth and support, we talked about it earlier, you said who's they and who's they we, is that a lot of things that we were speaking about in 2009 around Islamist radicalisation in prisons, a bit about the Greenman, and a few other things are now being talked about now. So it kind of, looking back, we kind of were right on some things, but we got it the wrong way around, if you know what I mean. So I do think that justification or that confirmation that Tommy was probably right back then to how it's being talked about now is another reason for his growth as well. I'm not saying it would have changed anything, if EDL would listen to a bit more back then, would we be in the position we are now? It's a lot of what ifs, and nobody's just prepared to talk to each other. That's what it boils down to, is conversation.
I think the other thing, though, implicit in your comment, I guess we'll just have to think about it, because you said you want Muslims to be more vocal about the bad eggs in the Muslim community. The truth of the matter is, though, it's just I've never come across if you talk about recent conversations or in any conversation, someone saying 10 Muslims, one of the 10 wants to start killing people or start chopping something off someone's body. It doesn't even happen. Like,
see,
for me
world.
to tell someone, you shouldn't
world.
talk like that.
See, that's the real world, isn't it? Again, we're going. It's so the difference. Like I said here, there's no. Look at outside. It's lovely. It's the online world where the space needs to work, but the online space is so big, and you've seen what happened during lockdown as well, when platforms, people were getting kicked off certain platforms, another 10 different platforms were popping up.
And it also goes back to what you were saying earlier, just as much as mainstream media, we can talk about, is it being done on purpose? At some point you feel it has to be. Yeah. They're presenting a view about migrants, etc., but they're the ones who made people like Ajahn Chowdhury as spokespersons at the time.
Exactly how Tommy's been made, that's how Ajahn Chowdhury was made.
Yeah, correct. And so I think it's not the Muslim experience. But at this current moment, like right now, what confused me so much about when the Unite the Kingdom march happened, it was all anti-migrantism, but there was a lot of just simple anti-Islam that happened in those speeches. And it's not clear why that's happening. Because right now, if you look right now, there are no Ajahn Chowdhury type spokespeople. There aren't any of those conversations. A lot of your reference points were, so I'm saying right now it's very unclear what is driving an anti-Islam agenda that's becoming so strong.
It's not the Muslim community. the Muslims didn't argue with us. They did back when I was in the EDL. We did have arguments with the Muslim community with a group called the Muslim Defence League and stuff like that. So back then it was different. The Muslims don't react to nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's the left wing that are speaking on your behalf that makes things worse for yourselves as well, I think.
Who is this? Who do you mean?
So like, just for example, like on a street demonstration, for example, you'll see all people countering each other. That's where a lot of the problem, that's where a lot of the hatred stems from. Because back in the day when we went to a demonstration, we knew we were going to have anger or an argument or maybe a little fight with some Muslims. That was our enemy then. But when the NDL stopped coming out in about 2012, 2013, the left become the new enemy because they're the ones on the street, they're the ones pointing your finger at you. A lot of white people do think Muslims hate us. Adrian Chowdhury. I'll say that all day long because he had the platform for 15, 20 years of protecting his hatred. And like lots of people like me living in a town like this, as you've seen, are easily misled by somebody like him. Because when he's the man on the news all the time that we're seeing and he's in the newspapers, even after Lee Rigby's killing, where he actually radicalised the people who'd done it, he was a Muslim on the TV saying bad things about things. So ordinary people like me, it's so easy for us to start believing that somebody like that Muslim, that one Muslim there saying these bad things represents all of you. But it's not because it's because he's the only Muslim portrayed to us. So we're only hearing his side. So I'm not, like, it wasn't until I met Manwar, Manwar was the next jihadist himself from back in the late 80s, early 90s. So he had this good understanding of what I was thinking. So he could actually challenge my rhetoric, of my interpretation of Islam, because he understood it. Like when I talked to Keneal, an ordinary revert, he didn't understand my interpretation, so that's where we had conflict. So I just think, just talk. That's the only thing I can say is talk and listen. Listen's the most important part because we just listen to reply a lot of the time. I think sometimes you need to listen harder and just take a bit longer to understand. Then you can answer properly without a flasher. Because if you just answer the reply, you're not responding properly. You're not really listening to the person. See, a lot of the things, like Speaker's Corner is a bit of a problem as well, because that's being publicised everywhere as well. So you have different debates. At least they talk down there. They have debates down there. But I think you just need a big, massive public debate, televised, where you've got all the people with a view that side, a load of moderate Muslims that side. Some of the.
Are you saying an internal Muslim debate?
No, I'm talking about everybody. Like get everybody around the table.
Yeah.
Controversial voices, moderate Muslims, people who can challenge, so everybody can challenge each other. At the end of it, hopefully, we have an answer.
Should we do a travelling roundtable
to be fair,
around this topic?
I think that's what you need. Nobody's going to start talking to each other without being prompted. So I think maybe that's what you need, a roadshow or something. Get people talking then. Because I watched a film about America a few years ago, about this man who was neo-Nazi who changed his life. They did a thing called a shitsar or something. Pronunciation might be wrong. And that was like a community event where they had like a chairman and they split the town in two sides. This is obviously because black kids needed to go to a white school. So obviously you had the Klan one side and then the blacks the others. But they held these weekly meetings, and towards the end of it, the Klan leader at the time, who was opposed to it all, he was the winning vote. So he voted for the black kids to go to the thing. So then he left his life. So something like that could change people as well. But it's a brave thing to do. Do you know what I mean? I forget what the film's called, but it's definitely worth a watch.
Even there's something you said right there, I just nodded along, but you said you Muslims are allowed to lie for your faith. Now, there's an Arabic word called taqiyya.
Yeah.
No Muslim, I promise you, would know what that word is except through the far right.
The only reason I said that again, because I used to say it back in the day, right? The only reason I say it, I see it mentioned yesterday online on X from Dan Wooten. He'd put something about that. That's why I said it today.
Now, the Arabic word was, to the best of my knowledge, developed by a minority Muslim group, or the Shia, and it was a way for an internal Muslim cohesion. That's why normal Muslims have never heard the word,
and that's why
they keep being told you guys can't be trusted because you do this, and don't even know what you're talking about.
Now that's another thing about the online space again. Something's going out that we don't know nothing about, and you said it was internal.
And I can't deny it because it's part of the process. Do you see the problem?
It's things like that.
It kills conversation right from the root. If you have a
I know that I can use that again when I challenge people. But yeah, it's just little facts like that make a big difference. Like the public don't know that. Do you know what I mean? The public get their perception from echo chambers, media, and it's not. You never get the full picture. I've only got my full picture. I've been speaking to Muslims since 2011. I still don't know half of it. Do you know what I mean? I'm a lot more educated than I was, to be fair, that education, that bad time in my life when I was in the EDL has helped me now. It sounds bad, a negative turned into positive. Like my understanding of the Muslim community now means the job I do in my day job is I'm able to help everybody equally. And especially if they've got Muslim faith, I'm able to offer that bit more. Like, I know they need a Quran. I know we've got a local mosque here. I took one to the local mosque, so I know a bit more than most people. So it has helped me, and has made me a better person, mixing with Muslims. So most of our terrorism we got was the Irish, the IRA. So terrorism isn't really a new thing for us, really. Do you know what I mean? It's just that when the Muslims done it, it seemed to take on a different outlook. Terrorism did, because it was like, I think it was worse then because they were British born. Nobody can understand why they did that, because you're born in Britain, we give you everything, or Britons give you everything, and you do a kind of attack like that. Things like that. I think that's why there's so much anger around the Manchester attack, because for the first time they'd attacked children, and that's the next level. Do you know what I mean?
Is it only Brits who are used to terrorism, or is there terrorism all over?
There's terrorism all over, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? But everybody makes a big thing out of it when it's Islamist.
Why is that?
I haven't got the answer for that, actually. Thinking about it, it's just... I think it's because of that perception that people are trying to enforce people to become Muslims and force Islam on people. I think that's probably...
But I don't think that's happening either, though.
See, but you're not in the echo chambers that white people are in, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is where some of my things, when we talk to Muslims and that, we sort of have a laugh about, because I understand what you're saying, I really do, but you're not seeing the places where I've had conversations, which they wouldn't allow you in anyhow because you'd challenge heretic. So yeah, echo chambers are a big problem, because we run echo chambers and you control the conversation. If somebody says something you don't like, you delete and block them. Problem solved. And then you carry on with what you want. And then again, even in an echo chamber, you may not engage or talk to anybody in there, but subconsciously you'll brainwash yourself to thinking the same because of everything you're reading that's being posted. Like we wouldn't have had many problems in my town, but in the echo chamber I was in there with people from London, Birmingham, Tower Hamlets, so they had a different experience with Muslims than we did. So we'd believe their experience over anything else, because we hadn't experienced it yet. Again, it goes back to that change of your neighbourhood, that change. People my age and over don't like change. That's a sad fact. But we live in a world that's changing every day.
We've got this new appropriation of symbols, right, within the new sort of resurgence of uniting the kingdom. We've got interesting, I think, in I don't know how you'd phrase it now. I'm going to call it the using of
Christian.
I've
been watching
of Christianity. We had the Christian carols, and then the church came out to say that isn't us. We've got the flags going up as well. What's your view of this appropriation of symbols right now?
But that's not a new thing. It's like everybody making out that the use of Christianity has been a new thing. Back in the day, we were using Templar shields for our flags, and Britain First, for example, they were Christian nationalists back in the day. They're still, lots of people talk about Tommy at the minute, but everyone's forgot about Britain First. Britain First is still going. They're still doing migrant hotel protests. They're still doing stuff like that. Why wasn't they included in the new conversation around Christianity? They've been doing Christian patrols in Luton years ago. For some reason, they've been forgot about. Jada Frenson, who was Britain First, now runs a Christian group online. I forget what it's called now because I was looking at it the other day, but that's a bit more like the Templar Knights online as well. It's just another way to to frame what they want, I think, because when you think of Christianity, I think sometimes people think that England's a white place of Christianity. It's like a sugarcoating for saying white people again, I think, because Christians in England are mainly white. So I think there's so many different ways, but it's not a new thing like everybody's just making out, like all of a sudden everyone's, just because Tommy's turned or got baptised, it shouldn't be major anyhow, it's just, religion's private anyhow. But I think it's just another mask for rhetoric.
And symbolisms around the flag, raising the flag?
Well, see, that's just a bit of fabric. I don't believe there's a problem with the flag. I believe the problem is around the commentary about the flag. Like, I had an argument with somebody online not so long back, like, the far right use the flag. The far right believe they're standing up for their country. So what flag do you think they're going to use? They're not going to use Argentina's flag for when you're standing up for England, do you know what I mean? So I think the flag's just over, that argument's just a messy one that's pathetic. It's just not doing nobody any favours because it's our national flag. It represents our country. It doesn't matter what other people's perception, at the end of the day it's our country's flag. So I think it's the commentary that's causing the problems around that. Because like with our flags got around here, I'm not saying that people doing it at far right, but when people are talking about the flags, they're talking like from one angle, the far right. I've noticed three different sorts of people. You've got the people who are far right doing it, how it started, how we all know about. But then since then you've had a TikTok trend. You've had people doing it who think they're doing it for the right reasons, like our ones around here. You can't just look at the bad, worse, and blame everybody for it. You have to sort of take a step back and maybe think there's more to it than what you're seeing. Because the flags, don't get me wrong, the flags do look nice when they're all up here. But I understand as well people are intimidated by it. But that's because of the commentary around it, because of what people are reading. So.
Fine. If I could almost bring together your thoughts about where we go from here, you've definitely championed open conversations. We've almost come up with an idea of travel the country debates, isn't it? If we could come up with that.
Critical thinking, how about that?
Okay.
We need more critical thinking as well. You need to really think about things. You can't just make a rash decision no more. Even when people write online now, that people are getting scared to write stuff online now because people have gone to prison for it now. So it's becoming a really strange world we're living in. I think it's going to take a lot of people to get a lot of time to get used to it. How we change the online space. Even with this new Online Safety Act, that's not going to stop everything either, is it? Do you know what I mean? So there's nothing, I think there's so much the internet trouble the internet brings, like freedom of speech argument. A lot of the freedom of speech people in England, I think, are getting their freedom of speech arguments offline with Americans who have got freedom of speech written in their constitution. We haven't got that so much, so I do think there's the online confusion with America and England on some of the things, do you know what I mean? And a lot of the people in the counter-terrorism things look at things through an American lens instead of, you're not in America, you're in England. Look at it through a UK lens. What works in America might not work here. We need our own strategies, our own thinking, and our own solutions.
Fine. No, that's actually a really important thing to
keep in mind. That's good. I know where that come from then. That's good.
This UK and US.
Yeah, I just, because at the minute, cause when they started talking about the Christian nationalists, they compared it with America straight away, didn't they, with Charlie Kirk and everything. So you can't keep comparing us to another country. We're a different country. We're England. You've got to look after number one sometimes before worrying about everyone else.
We've got this other theme about coming back into the real world, away from the online. Within that theme, we have to build locuses of community gathering. I think that's a big puzzle.
There is actually a good organisation out there at the minute doing that work, the Granswell Project in London.
Okay.
They do some excellent work on community cohesion or bringing communities together. They have their own, so on their website they have a WAP, a goodness map. So like, say for example in London there might be a really good refugee support centre that does an event. That's all the positive work in the community gets put on this big map all around the country it is. So if you wanted to volunteer to help your community, there's somewhere on there you can go to. That kind of thing is what you need on a mass day. But Yeah, so Hadia, because I do some work for, I do some talks for now and then. Hadia. So she's definitely worth talking to about, because she's got some good ideas for community work. That's what the Groundswell project is all about, is bringing the community together, whoever you are, and try and have this like positive map of Britain where if you wanted to do something to, it's like there's everything on there. There's food banks, there's community hubs, there's anything you want to do positive is on there, which is definitely worth a look if you...
No, that sounds excellent. You know, the work that we do, so I'm CEO of an organisation called National Zakat Foundation. We've been, so Zakat is obligatory alms in Islam. And so in our sacred tradition, it's meant to be distributed within the place where you live or the town where you live. Because Muslims have been a diaspora community. A lot of their zakat has been going back to countries back home. So we've been championing what actually is the actual teaching of the religion, which is no, it actually belongs here.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wait till I see our Muslims.
So,
you went, hey.
So we redistribute about £10 million within the UK. And we've shown that our intervention to keep people from going homeless, £1 we spend to keep people in shelter has a public value of £73 because rehousing someone homeless is much more expensive than just keeping them in their homes.
Yeah, it is, yeah. That's what I work in my day job, so I understand that. I understand the homeless side of things.
So it's almost, so we've been doing this for up to 15 odd years, and we're trying now to make the mosques as hubs for community care. And now we're trying to bring a number of community actors together to create like local forums.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then just to see how we can create a local forum of a community that understands self-care and distribution, and essentially to be a model to save the country. It sounds a bit insane, but because I can't see a future other than organised community solidarity and welfare. I don't think the government can solve this anymore, and I think we have to feel it's our problem to solve.
To be fair, that's a fair point, that is. That is quite a good thing to think about, actually, because it's a bit like what we said earlier. It's a bit like Groundswell, where they do everything in the community. Yeah, that way. See, that'd be a good way for the Muslims to be looked at in a different light as well. Because I think
I've got this very contentious phrase. I don't know if I should use it, but I think Sharia can save Britain.
Don't get me wrong. I've heard that before.
And it's not to do with conversion or imposition or forcing anything on anybody, but because it's an ancient code of community solidarity.
Yeah,
and
that's not
if
the first
it can
time
be,
I've heard that, so don't worry.
and if this code can show a community how to organise for the purpose of welfare solidarity, this is the model that I think Britain can benefit from. Because I don't think the government can solve this anymore. I just feel so strongly about that now. And I don't think, because if hate is just a symptom of actually people feeling alienated out of community and left behind, then actually we have to treat the system, the actual cause, which only is from our own mobilising of our wealth, resources and our human...
Fair point, sign me up. Yeah, to be fair, that's like what you said earlier. It comes from the people, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? The people want the change. They need to sometimes... maybe it's because we're just so used to expecting our government to do something that the government... Everyone talk about revolution, but that would be quite a revolution in itself. Non-violent, helping everyone.
And so I just recently joined this Faith and Belief Forum in Kingston. So I'm from southwest London. And I'm going to be proposing to them as well that it's not that in addition to faith communities within themselves organising, then it's across the faith communities, because faith communities, faith has always been a voice for welfare and charity, and faith communities have spaces. The spaces are quite prime, where people can come and be looked after and find other people. So if we could create organisation within faith communities and then create that net, I think faith is going to save Britain, because I think it can organise charity, spaces, giving, mobilizing, volunteering. But that's what I think we have to start maybe talking about more.
That's worth thinking about, that is. I think you might be onto something there, my man.
And I think we have to do this travelling roundtable.
Yeah,
To
be fair, Mamo would be up for that, I think.
Just bring people in a room from all persuasions, exactly as you've said, and just have some ground rules and just have a conversation.
That's what
and do it over the country.
It can be pleasant.
It doesn't have to be on TV, right? Just from locality to locality.
Even if you just go to a little group in a town, do you know what I mean?
Would you be up to that?
Yeah, I'd be up for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm up for anything that's positive, like I said before, do you know what I mean? Anything that looks at solutions rather than scaremongering, because I was scaremongered for 5 years myself, so I don't want to project that on anyone else, do you know what I mean? So, no, I try and do the good thing, so.
Fine. No, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for coming to Lowestoft, man.
Really appreciate it.
Now you can tell everybody how cold it is.
So we just had a really interesting conversation with Ivan Humble. I think his surname dictated, his journey, because it was one of humility, I think, trying to understand, trying to make sense. His message is very simple, really. It is about open conversations. I know in the Muslim community there is a lot of fear and concern about what is happening and what's on the horizon. And I think his message is you just have to talk. The dangers of online he kept coming back to. So I think the online space is a space that we really have to think hard how we can bring people back out of it, really. Had a really interesting reflection on UK and US conversations merging and mixing and confusing the waters here, actually, within the UK. So I think there's a lot of interesting thoughts that he shared, but right at the heart of it, I think all of us will feel hearing it from someone who's been on that journey has been so enriching for us. Every conversation I've had has ended always in the same place, which is communities have to organize, communities have to come up with welfare solutions, community has to create the net, which is catching people who are falling right now. And if we don't, hate is not a cause, it's a symptom of a country, system, society that it just isn't working for people. And I think our faith, our teachings, our practices really have a lot to offer, not just to our Muslim community, but to wider society. And we have to have the courage to step forward to offer those public solutions. And I think that's what has been confirmed so much today. If you want to listen to more conversations like this, conversations that are really trying to think about real solutions, subscribe and follow NZF, my friends.